Oh, my gosh. Okay, folks, it is 10 o'clock. There's all the meeting to order and rise for the pledge.
We moved the flag.
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, public forum. Do we have anybody dialed in?
Eileen and a call-in user.
And a who?
Call-in user.
Okay.
Not sure if they wish to speak.
Anybody want to say anything that's on the call in public forum?
Just gonna say hi. Nice to see you back in the courthouse.
Thank you. Good to hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear us?
It is fantastic. That's the best I've heard it in years.
Maybe we figured it out, Gussie.
I don't know, but it's good. Really good, Steve.
Good. Thank you.
Good job, Ryan.
Good job, Brian. Yeah. We'll move on to the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, we just have some additional information for agenda item F on the Sard Sam's Heritage Funds projects.
No.
Ludwig move.
Okay.
Oral second.
Motion by Ludwig, second by Moore to approve the agenda with the additional information. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2021 County Board meeting summary for publication, and the minutes of the June 29th special meeting, Committee of the Whole.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Lovegren, second by Moore. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes of boards, reports, and correspondence. The Sard Sam's Heritage Correspondent, notification of Outdoor Heritage Fund proposal. Do we need to talk about that, or Pine County Chemical Health Coalition minutes of June 14th, Pine County Chemical Health Planning and Implementation update, and Pine County Land Surveyor monthly report.
Mr. Chair.
I'll second it.
We need to mention this?
If
Or it's just here to read.
Chair, members of the board, the Sard Sam's Heritage Fund proposals are, there's just a requirement in statute that county boards be made aware of project applications that are in the counties. We're not involved in any of the three projects that are proposed. And on the handout, you can see those three projects for Pine. There are two enhancements and a restoration project. And then these projects may or may not be funded. And so if you had interest in any of them, there is a public comment period that the council has.
Okay, we can go look those up. Okay. Get a motion on the minutes? And a second? And then any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move on to the consent items, consent agenda.
Piper will make a motion to accept the
Lovegren,
consent.
Lovegren moves.
I'll second.
More seconds. Any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. We'll move on to regular agenda. Clean Water Partnership Loan Update. Kelly Schroeder is going to give us the info.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, at the last board meeting, Chair Hallen, you had asked for an update on this program, and so I am here with the update.
All right.
So just kind of a little background, back in 2016, Pine County received a $900,000 Clean Water Partnership loan from the Pollution Control Agency. And so that loan, Pine County assists homeowners in putting in septic systems to replace non-compliant septic systems. We put the money out, we get reimbursed from the state, and we could do up to $900,000. And then those homeowners pay back their septic system on a special assessment against the property taxes. We used nearly all the funds that was available through that 2016 loan by the end of the loan last July 30th. And so then we received a new loan and another amount of $900,000 to use over 4 years from 2020 to 2023. So to date, between those two loans, we have installed 91 septic systems. So that's replacing 91 non-compliant septic systems with new compliant septic systems in the county. And that's a total of $4 million that have gone out for our local contractors, really. In my mind, it's a win-win. You're getting compliant septic systems, you're getting work to our local contractors. And so you're seeing those dollars roll over several times. We've received 111 applications. There's a few applications where the people have just pulled out after they put in the application for various reasons, but otherwise there's a few that are still out there pending as well. And we have applications that come in quite frequently. You know, back in 2014, when we put into place our new sewer ordinance that required that point of sale compliance. This was kind of the second part of that tool of giving homeowners the opportunity to actually fix it. And so that's something that's, I think, has been a success, partnering those two things together. Sometimes you've got the new homeowners who there wasn't any money at the time of sale to put in the system. So then the new homeowners come in and do the loan. And so it's just providing that opportunity to replace those systems. Our original loan was at 3% interest. And then when we got our new one, it actually dropped down to 1% interest. So for those people on the new one, they're getting a low interest rate. It was interesting when we were at that 3% interest rate, we thought that was really good, but now mortgages are lower than that. So we're actually seeing some of those people with those 3% interest rates actually refinancing into their mortgage because it's at a lower rate, which is fine. Did you have a question?
I did. Maybe you'll get to it.
Nope, I was almost done.
Oh, the 1.4 million we've loaned out, how much have we got back in payments?
So it about 250,000 with payments and then ones getting paid off. And then we have, you know, we're in that repayment phase too of we pay it back to the state, then it's just.
Yeah,
Right. We get it back and send it back to the
Right.
state, yeah.
Yeah, so it comes back and then it goes back.
Right.
Do we pay twice a year then, when your taxes come, is that,
So the homeowners pay it twice a year with
and then you,
second half
how does our payment go, one?
payments are August 1st and February 1st for
Okay.
the state.
Do we get the interest or do they get the interest?
So our interest on our original loan is 2%. And so then we get to keep 1% of the interest just for our administrative costs. And on the new loan, our interest rate to the state is 0%. And then we get the 1% just to cover our administration costs.
Okay.
That is a win-win.
Yeah. We have a second program as well with septic replacements for the low income that we actually get a grant from MPCA every year for. And so that we're running through Lakes and Pines since they're just in the business of verifying income and things. And so those are truly grants. If the people own the home for 10 years, then it's forgiven. But they have to be at that very low income threshold. And within that program, it's only, since that's been going since 2013, and that's only been about $300,000 through that program. But again, it's a very kind of selective group that get to go through that program.
So do we have any count of, right now, if you if I ask you, how many non-compliant sewers do we have in the county?
So every year we have to report that to the MPCA on our annual septic report. And so we always just do an estimate based on how many non-compliant systems did we get this year? You know we have X amount of total systems in the county approximately, and how many of those that were inspected were non-compliant. I don't have that number for 2020 off the top of my head, but I can follow up with it. It's going down and down and down is the wonderful news.
Yeah,
Yeah, because when we started that report back in they started asking for that number, I think in 2014, and it was a staggering number.
I'm sure it was.
So we just replaced ours.
Yeah,
So with ours, we didn't get this program, but they had to come out and inspect it and make sure that it was put in correctly. So is ours counted then towards what you have, even though?
right. So on our annual report, obviously it's not in these numbers, but on our annual report, we look at it as, okay, it was a replacement of a system. And so we replaced a non-compliant system.
Okay,
So it helps those numbers.
okay.
So anybody that put a sewer in after 2002 is probably in compliant?
Well, 96 was when the regulations
Okay.
came in. And so sometimes we feel good about those systems that were put in since 96, but the way that we look at the soils has also changed. And so sometimes the systems that have been put in since 96 are not passing. But I mean, if it's since 96, for the most part, we feel pretty good.
Anybody got any questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kelly.
Post-pandemic county operations.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, with the ending of the peacetime emergency, it seemed like an opportunity to check in, just give an update on how things are progressing and then get some feedback from commissioners if they want to see certain things or not see certain things. With regards to board meetings, for the most part, with the expiration or the ending of the peacetime emergency, those are going to be in person with some limited exceptions. Our intent is that we would continue to provide a WebEx and a live stream for the public and for staff who can't make it to the meeting. And so if there's any thoughts or feedback on that piece of it. In this room, we have some technology upgrades planned that will make the live stream a little easier. And there'll be a screen in the back, kind of where Ryan is sitting now. And then we'll use this screen behind you for the public and have microphones for that purpose. And then up in Sandstone, we will continue with the setup, much like we have been. We still don't have all of the legislative impacts, completely figured out. We know with the ending of the peacetime emergency, some of those services that were allowed to be done remotely are going to phase back into in-person. But there was a number of legislative changes that will allow some remote services to continue. And some of those are in a positive, and we think are going to be very positive. And I think, Becky, at a future date, you'll maybe give a more comprehensive update, because a lot of them relate to the HHS work. And then,
I'll wait for Becky's update because she probably still has questions about how that's really good. Because we worked really hard through the Blue Ribbon Committee from AMC to convince legislators that some of these waivers really were the best way to operate. No matter if there's a pandemic or not. So hopefully we got that cleared up.
I think Matt has a
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
so before you go too much farther, I know you're not done, Dave, but on the meetings,
yeah.
how about the committee meetings? Can they still be WebEx? Because that's a handy tool.
So, I'll back up so Reese can be joining the conversation if he needs to, but because the committees have no delegated authority from the county board, right? There's the committees only make recommendations. They don't make any decisions. And there's less than a quorum on those committees. Those committees are technically not subject to the open meeting law. And so those could continue to use the video, and we should be okay. I guess we allow and have allowed in the past, if there are members of the public who are interested in those, to attend. Because obviously there's nothing to hide with those meetings. And so I think we could continue those.
Thank you.
The committees that we serve on outside of the county, Lakes and Pines, Council on Aging, are they gonna have to go back to in person?
I think that would be a case by case based upon how that committee or board falls under statute. So if it's covered by the open meeting law, then presumably it would need to go back to in person, and remote attendance would need to be as remote attendance for a board meeting where you would have your location known and accessible to the public if you wanted to join remotely.
That makes perfect sense because it's,
And
they're spending money at those or, big decisions.
Yeah, and I don't know offhand if any of the boards you're on are covered or not covered.
Yeah, EMS, mine is a full board. So you'd have to announce your location and be in a public spot, I think.
Yeah, and I guess if there are questions on a particular board, if you want to reach out to either Reese or me, we can work with, whoever that administrative person is for that board to figure out what the rules are.
Thank you.
The problem, I think, comes up that we discovered is if everybody is on a remote device, it works really, really well. But if part of the people are, and they don't have good technology at the meeting host facility, it sucks to be a remote participant.
Yeah, and maybe I can add a little clarity. If it's like a regular joint powers agreement, like the landfill or the library, probably, those are covered by the open meeting law. In my mind, there's not a question. Things like the workforce center maybe are covered under a different statute or, I don't know. So if it's a standard joint powers, the default is it's probably covered by the open meeting law. If it's a little, one-off where it's not just counties that did a JPA and it's some other type of entity that you're just a representative to, that might be a little different, but we can certainly work through any of those. On the topic of remoteness or remote meetings and such, we continue to have a substantial number of employees with the ability to work remotely. We have 176 VPN users. That means people who have the ability to remotely tie into their computer, to our computer network. Not all of those are regular remote users. Some of them might be mobile users, but we know we're going to continue with a number of people using that remote capacity. And we think that's a strength, right? And so as a board member, if you are getting feedback or you have feelings on what is or isn't working for remote work, we want to have that conversation. But we think it puts Pine County in a positive position with regards to being able to do good service delivery and also being able to attract and retain quality employees.
How many employees do we expect to maintain the work from home? Do we know that number?
Yeah, so that on the continuum of maintain that capacity, it's probably close to that. It's probably close to that 176 number, right? As far as working remotely more often than working in the office, that number is probably closer to 50 to 70.
What about,
That's a nice number.
have anybody that basically is only gonna come here for once a quarter, once a month,
Those are mostly going to be Becky's employees in HHS.
I know we talked about a number of
Yep.
about 35. Is that gonna hold true, or is more than that, less than that, more than that?
That's amazing.
I think it is. I think I think as we look at the trend in the corporate world, it's what is happening. So if we're gonna retain that quality of worker, we have to offer that kind of a system, I think.
And then we also, with the pandemic, we pretty much eliminated the committee of the whole meetings. And we typically would have a summertime schedule where we'd be out at various meeting places around the county. We have a committee of the whole meeting coming up on the 21st. And on that agenda, so far, we've got an update from the Soil and Water Conservation District, East Central Regional Juvenile Center update and Joint Powers Agreement review, a mid-year budget update and 2022 budget kickoff, and a review of the solid waste ordinance and potentially getting a special committee to look in a little more depth at that solid waste ordinance. So that seems like a pretty full agenda for that meeting, and that will be right here in the boardroom. If there's an interest in reviving the committee of the whole meetings and getting out and about a little bit, we certainly can do that this late summer and fall. And I guess I'm looking for some feedback as to if there's an interest in that, if there's venues that you think you'd like to meet at or topics that you want to be sure we cover, we can start to put those together.
I have two comments, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The 21st, I'll be remote because I have a scheduled appointment on it. And then a location that I think would be fun to have a committee of the whole would be at Nemadji Resources at some point in the future, just to see what goes on there.
Yep.
They have really bad broadband, so we wouldn't be able to have it online. I'm sorry, we hear about it from Becky all the time.
I don't know if that was just an idea I had, because there's a lot of people that work there. And I don't know anything about it.
Wouldn't that have to be online?
They got pretty good broadband there now
Do they know?
at their work facility. Yeah.
So in answer to that question, they do not need to be online, right? In my sense, or my,
But if Matt's gonna be there, they need to be.
yeah. So my thought is that trying to do the broadcast from wherever we would have a committee of the whole meeting is going to be very challenging.
Right.
That it might be a lack of broadband, the facility may not have good setup. There's a lot of work. You know, if we say, hey, Ryan, pack this thing up and drive out to wherever and set it up, it's a lot less reliable. So the online experience probably is going to be less good. So we can do it on a case by case, depending on how the venue is set up. Or historically, we've not broadcast any meetings pre-pandemic. And so whether we wanted to do the committee of the whole or not is really a trade-off between the importance of meeting at a remote location versus a high-quality broadcast. So we can certainly.
Yeah, I think it would.
If you go later, like, I don't know how late in the fall we go with those, but the budget's kind of busy. So
Yes.
I know I'm gonna be good, I won't be down as often mid-September on probably, or.
Yeah,
But
I just know.
I don't want to hold up a committee of the whole though.
So
I'd love to have a meeting there though. It's really much.
the couple that we've had now, the one a couple weeks ago and the one we have coming up, the agenda topics just flowed very quickly with things that we need to be discussing, right?
Right.
So I think if we wanted to put another one or two on the schedule, we would be able to find some really good topics to fill them with. And then we had been scheduled to meet out at Nemadji, and I'm looking at Debbie because maybe she remembers more specifically. But I think we canceled that because of the pandemic.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be natural to revive that. And I know Becky Laurie was very excited that we would have a meeting out there. And so I think if we were interested in that, Debbie could reach out and we could find a date probably in August that maybe would work for her and for the board.
Could we do September?
I have
Remember?
I have a topic too. I know if Kelly could explain, or Gregor, our land committee and our process is a good topic to get in front of our new board members. I know Terry, you probably dialed in pretty well to that from your side there, but
See what changes happen and stuff too.
So is September a better time frame to go out to the Magi?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll look for something in September. And then as ideas, topic ideas come up, just pass them along to me and we'll get an agenda together. So that completes my update.
All right.
Is there other questions?
Any other questions? If not, do we have any sense of a legislative update yet?
I think big picture, we survived or we came out of the legislative session pretty well. On a detailed analysis, I don't know that we had any losses. Like, I don't think there was anything done that's going to be detrimental to counties. But as far as all of the impacts, I think we're going to have to wait for some of it to synthesize through the professional associations as they look at what is going to be the impact on this service or that service.
I'm sure as time goes on, we'll figure it out better. We'll move on to updates. American Rescue Plan discussion with townships and cities.
Do you want me to take that?
Sure.
So I think we had success on our first meeting and we scheduled a second meeting based on that conversation. And I think as we have gone along, maybe what has become clearer is that we have some jurisdictions that are out in front and on top of this and, looking forward to figuring out how to access and spend those funds. And then we have some jurisdictions that just don't have the capacity to really be much involved and they're looking for a little more help from the county in order to access those funds. And so we're going to be working on developing that list of jurisdictions that needs maybe more help or is interested in more help. And so if you talk to townships or small cities that are looking at the prospect of not even bothering to apply for the funds, or they look like they really need some help, let us know, let Kelly or me know, and we will work to reach out to them individually and see what help they need. And if they have projects that would be good projects for the money, or if they would like to roll those into county projects.
has there been any clarity in the rules on the gas tax dollars that were different through the pandemic, that we could maybe claim in that? And
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
And I'm still working through that partially, but so the way that they're having us do the loss of revenue is we have to look at all of our
Yeah,
revenues,
it's up.
our general revenues,
Yep.
put them together and then see if we have a loss.
Okay,
So from my quick look, it doesn't look like we are going to be able to capture anything.
okay.
However, I'm still playing with the numbers just to try to make sure.
It was too good to be true as a straight up. If we missed this much, we
Stay okay, like the casino aid, we were 60,000 short, we could grab 60,000, like that would be great.
Yeah.
But when you start to add all of our revenues together, there really isn't a lot of shortfall.
okay. Thank you for that.
The good news on that, with Gussie on the phone last week, I actually worked with Gussie on the township side. And it seems like it's gonna be a lot simpler for townships to show a revenue loss.
Well, that's what I was worried about, because we get that trickle down through that
Right.
too, so yeah.
Yeah. And so that's maybe some good news is some of those smaller entities, it's a lot easier for them.
Which is a lot of money to those townships.
Right.
Yeah, if they get 27,000 on gas tax money and they didn't get any, or they got,
10,000.
yeah, and they got no other source of revenue other than their levy, and their levy didn't change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Thank you. We'll move on to the CBR Accelerate meeting. Seems like that ended a long time ago, but.
Must have been one on the calendar.
I think it was the final one where we talked about what our plans are. We're
Okay,
gonna go with that one.
it was, go ahead, Terry.
It was interesting and there's been letters that have gone out to consultants, so we're gonna be checking with consultants to see where we can go because we've got a $25,000 grant from Bland and that it's a match grant, but we can utilize that to get a consultant to figure out what our next steps are. And go. Anything else?
I think that covers it for now. There'll be more
I mean,
coming. I know that. Brush Line Task Force was canceled. Housing Redevelopment Authority, the HRA. They meet?
I was, in Rochester.
All right.
Leslie is on the call. I believe she was at the meeting. Leslie, do you have any update that you can share?
It feels like it was a month ago already, but I kind of started lightly touching on strategic planning with them. And from what I got from that discussion was that they really want to focus on housing rehab right now and working on the existing housing stock. Can you not hear me? Can you hear me?
No, you're very
Oh,
loud. Ryan's going to turn you down a little bit.
Wow, I'm not even using my mom voice.
You're very clear, though.
Very cool. So that was what I got from that. So we started just lightly starting the strategic planning and I reached out to Lakes and Pines because that was the direction they kind of shifted to was let's see what capacity Lakes and Pines has to help us with the rehab component. And that is my only concern from that discussion is capacity. Lakes and Pines serves 7 counties. We're just one. To ask them to help us with a big task like that, a countywide rehab project for ever and ever would be pretty big task for them. So more on that to come, I think, at the next meeting, but that was the gist of it.
Thanks, Leslie.
Yeah.
Snake River Watershed.
Yeah, we had a meeting. Most of it was to talk about the way the management board is gonna go. And still a little bit of confusion out there. A couple of counties don't really know exactly. We were gonna send a letter, right? We haven't done that though.
We have not done.
Okay, all right. Because I expressed again that we're interested in doing the entity version and then we're gonna modify the management board policy to be one watershed, one plan. So essentially the watershed management board will just change their bylaws to be one watershed, one plan is what it's gonna turn
It
into.
seems so simple,
It seems very easy.
but
It's very confusing though to some people.
yeah.
So, and that's just to move on to one watershed, one plan. We talked a little bit about that too there and just what they're working on.
Josh, maybe just to share, some of the concern has to do with the voting membership. Is that correct? That under the management board, it's just counties that are voting members.
Yeah.
And under the one watershed, one plan, the SWCDs would become voting members as well as the counties.
Equal voting members. And right now with the watershed management board, they got a CAC, Community Action Council or board that meets simultaneously and they bring recommendations to the board and then the board votes, but the board don't have to listen to them either. So there's still the public part of one watershed, one plan. It's just a little different. It's in the, and
How you get, yeah.
yeah, it's not on the policy committee. It's on the planning committee. So once people start wrapping their heads around that, I think it'll be pretty easy. See what happens.
East Central Regional Development Commission Annual Meeting.
That was the 28th. I zoomed in on it. Got a little late start. They didn't quite have a quorum. Pine County's Glenn Williamson and Kevin Hofstad again were appointed back to their roles. Something I thought was interesting. They help with a new business in Pine County, which is good. Shingle washing and house washing business. Starting up with help from economic development. There's still 116,450 yet to be lended from the COVID revolving fund. And the Pine County businesses that applied, there was 3 of them, one up in Denham, one in Finlayson, well, Hinckley, Pine City. So those received their dollars. That's all I have to report.
House washing company, is that what?
Yeah, they, it sounds like they are starting that business. I think it's probably a great idea. I mean,
Probably.
They have signs all over.
yeah.
They wash roofs.
Maintenance of a house and, right, you know, and it's gonna prolong the roof of your.
Yeah.
I mean, like anything needs maintenance,
Right.
and it's gonna keep somebody probably, hopefully from falling and getting injured and everything else if let the professionals do it.
Yeah.
So it was really, really interesting to hear that, and it was nice that the economic development could help them out to get started.
Any other business? If not, look through your meetings and enjoy the cool week. No other business, I'll declare the meeting adjourned.
That's gotta be one.
That's gotta be on
record.
You didn't beat my record in ASCO though.
No, that's true.
What was your record in ASCO?
I think it was 20 minutes.
What was it?
No, hardly nothing on the agenda. And I was vice chair.
Oh, that's the one.
I mean, we cranked it out.
So he never made it there, did he?